The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios.
Hi, this is Mia Mosinzia, also known as Mia No Time for Love. Check out my latest book, Missing, available in print and ebook formats on Amazon.
It's now time for the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartradio, YouTube, iTunes, Anchor FM, Radio Public, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. Mike brings you great guests and interesting people from all across the globe. So sit back, relax, and enjoy another great episode of the Mike Wagner Show.
Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget, Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Mosinzia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Mosinzia. Available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is an illusion and those you love will be the first to go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Mosinzia has garnered great reviews and even loved and endorsed by Howard celebrities, including Joanna Cassidy, Forbes, Riley, and Manelas. So grab your copy today for Goes Missing by Mia Mosinzia. Available on Amazon. Also, check out the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com. Over 40 podcast platforms in over 110 countries, including Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartradio. Also, Anchor FM, iTunes, Google Play, and coming soon to HamiltonRadio.net, Diamonds FM, and more. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. And for great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com and check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. T-shirts, pop sockets, throw pillows, tote bags, hoodies, makes great gifts 24/7. Go to Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com/Mia Mosinzia for great books like Missing, Once, and Wrinkles. Also T-shirts, pop sockets, hoodies, phone cases, and more. Amazon.com/Mia Mosinzia. Check it out today. Also support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM, PayPal, themikewagnershow.com. You can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com with the Mike Wagner Show. Make sure you do so today. We're here with a terrific lady who is the second American woman to summit the K2, which is the second highest and deadliest mountain in the world. We'll talk about that. She summited the highest mountain on all 7 continents and coordinates an all-women's exhibition squad to an unclimbed peak in 2022. We'll talk about that. Led by Sherpani in support of Nepalese women. She's also a breast cancer survivor, founded the Alpine Athletes Athletics, where she coaches aspiring climbers to reach their mountain goals, and also has a new book chronicling her path from novice climber to the summit of K2 called Finding Elevation. Live, ladies and gentlemen, from the Plus Studios in beautiful downtown Seattle, where she's climbed the Space Needle a number of times or getting up to watch a game whatsoever, but this is nothing to her. We have the amazing American woman to summit the K2 and author of Finding Elevation. Ladies and gentlemen, the very amazing Lisa Thompson. Lisa, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Nice to be here, Mike. Thank you.
Well, it's great to have you on board as well. So you're the second American woman to summit the K2, which is the second highest and deadliest mountain in the world. You summited the highest mountain on all 7 continents, and you were coordinating an all-women's expedition to an unclimbed peak in 2022. And it's also led by Sherpani in support of Nepalese women. You're also a breast cancer survivor, founded the Alpine Athletics, where you also coach the aspiring climbers to reach their mountain goals. You also have a new book chronicling the path from novice climber to the summit of K2, Finding Elevation. You also climbed not just K2, but also Mount Everest, Manaslu, I think I got that right, Kilimanjaro, Vinson, Denali, Amadablin, and more. And before getting all that, Lisa, tell us how I first got started.
Well, thanks for having me on your show, Mike. I like to say that I got started climbing out of spite. So I grew up in the Midwest, not far from where you are. I grew up in Illinois, went to college in Wisconsin, and there's not a lot of mountains in those states, as you probably realize. So I didn't grow up, aspiring to be a mountaineer. I didn't grow up reading about Sir Edmund Hillary or those great first climbs of the Himalayan peaks. I wasn't even really that athletic. I had a hard time making the volleyball team, but I did have a very strong sense of wanting to prove myself and wanting to be seen as competent and accomplished. And so when I took my first management position in my 20s, that's the position that led me to Seattle, which is where I live today. I was the only woman at my level in my office. And as you can imagine, I was often left out of forays into the mountains on the weekends that my peers all organized. So they would regularly go climbing in the Cascade Mountains near Seattle. And they weren't bad guys at all. I think it just didn't occur to them that I might want to join them. Mm-hmm. And at that point in my life, I hadn't really found my voice yet. So I wasn't confident enough to do the logical thing, which would have been to approach them and say, mountain climbing, that sounds like fun. Can I join you? Instead, I just got frustrated by being left out. And in truth, I knew nothing about climbing mountains. What I wanted was to be a part of their group and to be seen by my peers as being successful and competent and worthy. And so what I did was just decide to climb my own mountains. And so I ventured out and started climbing and hiking smaller mountains in the Pacific Northwest. And then eventually hired a local guide company to climb Mount Rainier, which is the highest mountain in Washington. It's 14,410 feet. And after that climb, I summited in 2009. I was hooked. I had found something that, was a great physical challenge, but also a significant mental challenge. And I wanted more of that.
That's rather interesting. And what was that one precise moment that simply influenced you into what you're doing for the rest of your life? You had a turning point, but what was that one precise moment in that turning point?
Yeah, I think that climb of Mount Rainier in 2009 is what solidified mountains in my heart. That's what made me realize that I wanted to spend more and more time climbing. At that point in I was in my 20s. I didn't realize yet what mountains could give me in return. I saw them as a way to prove myself and as a way to challenge myself, as a way to prove people wrong. And I liked all of those things. But as I began to climb bigger and bigger mountains and take on, more challenge in the mountains, as I became more competent and skilled, I started to realize that mountains had a lot to teach me. And as I climbed bigger peaks and, endured the challenges of climbing Everest and running out of oxygen, and I learned a lot about myself, a lot about confronting fear, a lot about listening to my own intuition. And that's how my relationship with the mountains have evolved.
Mm-hmm. And he also had climbed Vincent as well, too, Kilimanjaro, and also going back as well, too, to Mount Rainier as one of your first. He also climbed Mount Elbrus in Russia and in Argentina. I'm having a hard time trying to pronounce the name.
Aconcagua.
Was it?
Aconcagua.
Aconcagua. Okay, now I'm learning.
You got it.
Yeah, also the Grand Teton, of course, Denali as well, too, and Mount Baker and Tharka Kang and what was it? Nepal, and of course, Mount in Australia. Was it Kazus? Oh,
that's another.
I'm in trouble today.
Yeah, those are hard words. So Kosciuszko is the name of the highest peak in Australia. It was named after a Polish team. So kind of hard to say.
Oh wow! What was it like? Was like the first team that actually climbed and succeeded? Was that how it was named after?
I think it was someone who explored that part of Australia, and so it was named after him. Yeah, he was a Polish guy.
Okay, and also with some of the mountains as well too. It's like, which do you think was like the easiest after a while? Of course, like K2, we're going to talk about that. What do you consider was like the easiest and the least challenging for you?
Well, certainly the Kosciuszko in Australia, which is about 8,000 feet high, not technical at all. It's really just a hike. was of the 7 highest peaks, the highest peak on each continent. That was the easiest one. It's sort of a funny story. I was in Australia for work at the time. I still had a corporate job. And so it was very important for me that I climb this peak while I was there because, Australia is not an easy place to get to. This was actually during COVID. And so I was very adamant that I was climbing this mountain. I had one weekend to do it in, and I completely over prepared. So if you can imagine, going on a few hour hike, I took with me crampons and rain gear and extra food and more water than I needed because I was very determined that nothing was going to stop me from getting to the top of Kosciuszko, which was the last of the 7 summits for me.
Wow, that was really interesting. And I was just thinking about that. It's like, what was it like the fastest you've climbed, or what was like the fastest mountain you've climbed?
Well, I don't necessarily keep track of how fast I climb mountains. Climbing big peaks. So Everest, for example, or any of the other peaks that are the highest in the world, there's sort of a standard of altitude in mountaineering, and anything over 8,000 meters or 26,000 feet is considered really high. There's only 14 mountains in the world that are that high, and they're all in the Himalayan or in the Karakoram mountain ranges. And so those peaks are climbed not as you might expect, because they're at such high elevations. Our bodies aren't able to survive with the level of oxygen that you'll find at those elevations. And so it's important as a climber to acclimatize. And so if you can imagine, walking for a week to get to Everest Base Camp, you see the mountain, you're ready to go, but your body physically isn't ready to climb. And so this process of acclimatization causes climbers to ascend first from base camp to camp 1. So you climb from 17,500 feet to 19,500 feet, spend a night there, then return to base camp to rest and recover, and then ascend a few days later from base camp to camp 2, spend the night, and then back down to base camp. So these rotations occur over the course of about a month, and they're designed to get your body to build enough red blood cells so that you can survive at higher and higher elevations. So it's a very slow process.
And how long do you say it takes again to get acclimated before you climb?
It takes about a month. So using Everest as an example, I left the US at the end of March and I summited Everest on May 19th. So it's quite a long endeavor.
Mm-hmm. And of course, we'll talk about some of the other mountains you climbed as well, too. We'll talk about you being a breast cancer survivor and finding the alpine athletics as well, too, and also your book. But first, listen to the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960, or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international war-winning author Mia Molson-Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is an illusion and those you love will be the first to go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Molson-Zia has garnered great reviews, and Eve11 enjoys by Howard celebrities, including Joanna Cassidy, Forbes Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today for Goes Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon. Also, check out the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com and over 40 podcast platforms and heard in over 110 countries. Take the Mike Wagner Show on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. And for great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com and check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com/Mia Molson-Zia for great books, merchandise, and more. Also support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM, PayPal, themikewagnershow.com. You can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com for the Mike Wagner Show. Make sure you do so today. We're here with the author of Finding Elevation. Lisa Thompson, the second American woman to summit the K2 here on the Mike Wagner Show. And with you being the second American woman to summit the K2, and tell us about the first person that did it. And I guess it kind of like maybe like a little comparison, how you did things. And second woman, so it's like, that's got to be a feat. And what about the first one?
Yeah, so K2 it's the second highest mountain in the world. It's about 800 feet shorter than Mount Everest. And people often assume that because it's shorter, because it's not as high, that it's easier to climb, which is absolutely not the case. K2 and Everest are really not even in the same league, in my view, in terms of danger or difficulty. And sort of to put that in perspective, the death rate on K2 is about 1 in 4, which is about 10 times higher than it is on Everest. And so I made the decision to attempt K2 after I beat breast cancer, which was not a very popular decision. You can imagine, I had just sort of fought for my life and beat cancer, and had decided then to take on this very challenging mountain. And part of that process was, understanding that a lot of people didn't think that I could do it. They didn't think that I was skilled enough. My climbing coach that I'd worked with for a number of years ended our relationship because he felt like I was climbing and letting my ego make decisions and climbing above my ability. So it was a very challenging decision for me to move forward with that climb. And ultimately, I had to realize that, I had to respect and listen to what the people who cared about me were saying, but also listen to what I felt in my heart, which was knowing that I could do it if I worked really hard and got lucky. And so I forever feel grateful to have stood on the summit of that mountain, which, as you said, not a lot of women have done.
Mm-hmm. And of course, too, that you being the second American woman as well, too. And you're also coordinating an all women's expedition as well, too. And you can tell us about that project coming up.
Yeah, so this is super exciting to me. As my climbing career, sort of, I would say K2 is probably the peak of my career. I'm continuing to climb big mountains, but my reason for being in the mountains has evolved over time. And what's more important to me now is to be able to give back. And this project, which is called Anything is Possible, is a way to do that. So along with 2 other female climbing friends, we're organizing an all women's expedition of a peak in Nepal this fall. And it's really important that, our definition of all women's is that the support team, every member of our team, from the people carrying loads to base camp, to cooking meals, to setting the route, everyone is a woman. And, it's not that we don't like guys at all, but we think it's very important to show that women are just as capable in the mountains. And a part of this project for us is to give back. We've, all of us have been fortunate to climb in Nepal many times and have really just fell in love with the people and the villages and the culture and the customs, and want to give back and support that community, and in particular, the women in that community. So we're in the process of accepting applications from women who want to, have a dream that they need some help, financial help attaining. So whether it's starting a cafe, or learning how to sew, or going back to school, it's very important to us that we raise the funds to give money back to that community, and in particular one woman, to help her realize her dream.
That's really interesting. You talked about Nepal several times as well, too. And how many times have you actually climbed Nepal? Was like the most, or what's like the second most you've climbed as well? You mentioned Nepal several times.
I've been to Nepal 4 times. To climb, and I've been to Pakistan twice. So been to Nepal more than any other country to climb. And that's why it has a really special place to me in my heart. And it's important to give back and support the people there.
And also, you also climbed Vincent as well too. And I'm looking at some of the notes here as well too. And you also did Denali as well too. And maybe tell us a bit about that. And if there's any mountains that we have not covered, feel free to talk about it as well. It's like I think I covered everything.
I think you've got them all. So Denali is the highest mountain in North America. It's 20,320 feet. It's in Alaska. And for me, that was really the first tough mountain that I aspired to summit. Part of what made it tough for me and makes it tough for climbers still today is that there aren't the same support systems in the Denali National Park that there are in Nepal, for example. So as a climber, you and your team have to be self-sufficient. So you carry all of your own gear, make all of your own food, melt all of your own water. And you can imagine, the amount of the weight of gear that's required for an expedition like that, which is about 3 weeks long. And so I'm a pretty small statured person. I am about 5'3" and weigh about 115 pounds. And that meant for me pulling a sled and carrying a backpack that the combined weight was just about my body weight. And that was incredibly challenging. It pushed me to really train harder and be more prepared than I ever thought I could possibly be for a mountain. And the reward at the end of that, I remember getting back to the airstrip. So basically, you're flying off the glacier, you've successfully summited, and sitting in the airplane and feeling like I really did something for the first time that people didn't think I was capable of doing, that I wasn't even sure I was capable of doing. And that's an important feeling that I've just kept sort of chasing over the years.
And also too, I was just thinking about it. Of course, some people have a rather upside or a funny side to it. Maybe just a really interesting or funny story, like along the expedition as well too, whatever it's in Nepal or say like with Mount Baker, Kilimanjaro, Vincent, K2 or anything like that. Maybe just, something a little humorous or really, really interesting story. Just kind of make people laugh. It's like, hey, this is not all that bad.
Yeah, it's not all that bad. I think one of the things that one of the questions I get, so I'm fortunate to be able to speak to a lot of audiences about climbing. And one of the questions I often get is about how you go to the bathroom when you're climbing.
I never thought about that, to be honest with you. Should I dare to ask? Yeah, you climb this way, climb that way. There's no elevator. Thank you.
Yeah. There's no elevator. There's no porta potty. So, on Denali and Vincent in particular, those mountains are managed by the Park Service or a conglomerate that are very focused on keeping those mountains as pristine as possible. And so that means you have to carry everything off the mountain with you. Or in the case of Denali, you're allowed to deposit it in one very specific crevasse. Take the contents of your toilet. Whoever, realizes that the toilet is full has the privilege of emptying the contents, and you actually toss it into a crevasse. That's, sort of the cleanest way. And the thing about glaciers, so a crevasse is just a big crack in a glacier. And those glaciers are slowly sliding down the side of the mountain. And so eventually they will deposit their contents. The crevasse will break at the base of the mountain. So eventually everything will slide downhill.
That's rather amazing. It's like, I think we'll have to do that next time we climb a mountain, and we'll continue to chronicle book as well to your path from novice climber to the summit of K2. I think you've covered that in Finding Elevation, maybe just some of the things we haven't discussed. And before we do that, what exactly inspired you to write the book in the first place?
Well, I had wanted to write a book when I was a little girl. I studied engineering in college, and so I took a very different path from sort of studying English or the arts, but still had that desire within me to do something creative and to write. And in my 20s, I, tried to find different topics that I felt were relevant for a book. So I tried to write about like all of the dogs that summited Himalayan peaks or just, silly things like that. Nothing really stuck. And then in 2015, I was diagnosed with breast cancer and really turned to journaling as a way to sort of get me through the process of fighting cancer. During that time, I learned a lot about myself and what I was capable of. I learned a lot about the people around me. And through that process of fighting cancer, sort of reprioritized my life. I decided after I beat cancer to climb Mount Everest. I was fortunate to do that, and fortunate to be a part of a team whose story was turned into a virtual reality documentary. I later learned that my father had brain cancer and lung cancer. He died shortly after I returned from Mount Everest. I got a divorce. I quit my job. There was a lot going on in my life during this time. And I learned a lot from those challenges. I learned that, challenges aren't meant to prevent our success, that they're a part of the process. And that when we can see on the other side of that challenge and move through it with grace and humility, we are always stronger on the other side of it. And so journaling became a very important way for me to cope with all the changes in my life. And at some point, I felt like I wanted to share what I had learned through that process with other people. And so now it sort of came full circle, and I felt like I had an important topic to be part of a book and part of a memoir, which is how Finding Elevation came about.
Mm-hmm. And what's the next project you plan on taking on? Like the next mountain you talked about, climbing in an unclimbed peak or unclaimed in 2022. What are some of the next mountains you're looking to climb?
So we'll climb that peak in the fall. And then I'm also planning to climb another mountain called Ama Dablam, which is in Nepal also. It's a very beautiful peak that's said to sort of resemble a woman sort of standing like this with her arms outstretched. Very steep, really nice exposure, a little bit of rock climbing, a little bit of glacier climbing. So I'll climb that in the fall, and then the unclimbed peak with the women. And our goal through the Anything is Possible project is to do that every year. So we're sort of using this as a test run, an inaugural attempt at supporting women through climbing. And then our hope is that we can continue to do that year after year.
Mm-hmm. And that's certainly amazing as well, too. I'll talk a bit about your book to wrap up and what's coming up for Lisa Thompson. We'll find out just 1 minute. You listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Also brought to you by official sponsor of The Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson-Zia Missing, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. We'll be back with author Lisa Thompson of Finding Elevation after this time out.
The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Call 1-800-303-3960 or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention The Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level.
Hey everybody, my name is Forbes Riley, and I'm an American actress and a TV host. And I was delighted when I got my copy of Missing, which is Extraordinary Relation of Ordinary People based on a real life relationship. It's well written. It's amazing. It talks about a man who has lost his wife and his daughter, and it's very well done. I'm going to highly recommend that you go get your copy of Missing. It is a powerful, exciting read. Mr. Mian Moshe-Zia. He is the author of Missing. And I want to give a big shout out and a kiss all the way halfway around the world to my dear friend. Check him out at Mia's website. It's called www.miamotionsea.com. Missing, available on Amazon. Again, I'm Forbes Riley, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Hey, this is Ray Powers, and boy, are you in luck. Right place, right time. Tuned in to The Mike Wagner Show. You heard me.
We're back with author Lisa Thompson of Finding Elevation here on The Mike Wagner Show. She was the second American woman to summit the K2, the second highest and deadliest mountains in the world. And she also, climbed several as well, too, and just gave some great stories. And also, too, a bit about the book as well. And, the fact that maybe some of the do's and don'ts and just maybe one or two things that we haven't covered yet. And what can we learn from it?
Yeah, so Finding Elevation is at its heart a climbing memoir. So it will appeal to readers who are interested in mountaineering or climbing and what it's like to be on an expedition. It's also a very deep and personal exploration into motivation and risk taking. And, I think that it shows what happens when people stop letting other people define what they're capable of. And that was a big, sort of takeaway for me through climbing and through writing. I definitely learned in the mountains to find my own voice and listen to my intuition. When I was descending K2, so I had just summited, I was at about 26,000 feet on a very steep ice face. And I know, because I study mountains before I attempt them, I know that this is the point on the mountain where many people have died, and that everything that I do in the next few minutes has to be perfect and precise. And as I'm descending, I look down the slope, and I'm attached to a rope with a device called an ascender. And I see a man laying on the rope that I'm descending. And that rope is meant for downhill travel, not for climbing up. And so I descend down to him and realize that he's alive, but he's unable to move. He's sort of climbed beyond his limit. And I had a very serious decision to make in that moment. Like, how am I going to get past this man on the rope? And so there was a series of exchanges with other climbers who felt that I should descend a certain way, which I didn't feel was safe enough. And finally learned to listen to my own voice and to very delicately move my safety gear as close to him as I could, and then attach it to him, and then finally move it around him so that I could safely descend. Mm-hmm. And that situation, that obstacle, is something that I think early in my climbing career, I probably would have listened to the other people.
Mm-hmm. And what was it? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And at that point, that was really one moment where I felt like I was able to stand up to listen to my own intuition and make my own decisions in the mountains.
Okay. And what was at one point in climbing that you had a near-death experience where you're like this close to death, but you managed to come out of it? And tell us about that experience, and how did you manage to pull that off? This is something mountain climbers can learn from.
Well, I don't know that I was near death, but one of the scariest moments in my climbing career so far occurred on Mount Everest, actually at a relatively flat part of the route at about 25,000 feet. And I was moving pretty well that morning. I, felt like I was moving relatively quickly. I knew the route was going to flatten out, and then it was going to get steep again. And at that flat section, I realized that I was moving really, really slowly. And I remember standing and just watching someone's glove sort of tumble down the snow. And I knew that something was wrong, but I didn't have the mental faculty at that moment to know what was wrong. And so a teammate climbed from behind and caught up to me and realized very quickly that I had run out of oxygen.
Oh.
And so, as you realize, that's a very dangerous situation to be in. I had acclimatized to about 21,000 feet, but was at about 25,000 feet. And so it's, a dangerous situation to be in. And I had a choice to make in that moment. I could have descended back to camp. I could have sat in the snow and waited for someone to bring me a new bottle of oxygen, or I could have kept going. And I chose to keep going. That section of the route is called the Yellow Band, and it's about 30 degrees of limestone. So it's rock. At sea level, it would be fun, be easy to climb. But on that day, without oxygen, it was one of the hardest things that I had ever done, mentally or physically. And I told myself just to focus on the climber ahead of me and to never, no matter what it took, never let him out of my sight. And somehow I powered through that climb, that situation, and made it to the other side very, very slowly. I'll never forget the moment where I finally got oxygen again. It sort of flooded, my blood, and I could see clearly, and I'll never never take it for granted again.
It also made me think of the National Geographic specials. I think there's a couple of movies in there. One was with Sylvester Stallone. I think it was in a movie as well. And I can't think of the name of it. And it kind of made me think it's like you're in that too. So
yeah, it's a very scary situation to be in. Absolutely. And, it's part of the risk of climbing with oxygen that you're not acclimated. And if that gear should malfunction, you can get into trouble very quickly. So I was fortunate to have a team around me and really learned a lot in that situation about mental toughness and realized that we're all so much stronger mentally than we give ourselves credit for.
Okay. And also too, just one more thing, about your foundation as well too. Once again, how can women or how can anybody, join your group as well?
Yeah. So if you want to learn more about Anything is Possible or keep track of what I'm up to and even receive a free first chapter of Finding Elevation, you can check me out at lisaclimbs.com. Also on Instagram at Lisa Climbs.
Okay, we will certainly do that. We're here with author Lisa Thompson, the second American woman to summit the K2 on the Mike Wagner Show with Finding Elevation. Just a couple more things. You've been amazing. And what else can we expect from you in 2022 and beyond?
My goal now is to continue giving back to the mountains and to the mountaineering community. And I'm fortunate to get to do that every day through my company, Alpine Athletics, where I coach other mountaineers, whether they're climbing Mount Rainier for the first time or whether their aspirations are to summit K2. My goal is to help them get ready physically and mentally for those climbs. And it's been a very rewarding sort of shift for me to feel what it's like to be a part of the equation that helps climbers achieve their goals in the mountains. So it's a really fun and rewarding time for me.
That's rather interesting, and we're looking forward to doing that. And who do you consider biggest influence in your career?
Wow. I think, so this might sound, I don't know if it's really my career, but I've always been influenced by Oprah Winfrey. Oh. I remember coming home from school when I was in, junior high and like rushing home to watch her. I think she's, just been an incredible role model for women, certainly people of color. And it's one of the first times, I think, through her that I learned about sort of gratitude and taking care of yourself on a mental level. And so I've always looked up to her.
That's rather amazing, too. And you still get a free car. So
yes,
that's a good reason to watch Oprah. You get a free car.
Absolutely.
Yes. And make her climb, too, as great for us. So, yes. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
My biggest advice, and I hope this comes through in my book, is to never let anyone else define what you're capable of. That's something that each of us gets to do for ourselves.
Okay. And that's very good advice indeed. Once again, author Lisa Thompson of Finding Elevation here on the Mike Wagner Show. Lisa, very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely fantastic. Looking forward to having you again soon. Make sure you keep us up to date. Keep in touch. We'd love to have you back. Once again, tell us about your upcoming projects. What's your website? How do people contact you? Where can people purchase? Check out your book. And also check out your foundation and other things.
Yeah. So check out lisaclimbs.com. Also alpineathletics.net. And you can keep track of what I'm up to on Instagram as well at Lisa Climbs.
We certainly will do so. Once again, Lisa, a very big thank you for your time. You've been totally amazing. Looking forward to having you again soon. Make sure you keep us up to date. Keep in touch. We'd love to have you back. We wish you all the best. You've got a great future ahead of you.
Thanks, Mike. Take care.
The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Call 1-800-303-3960 or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention the Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level.
Hey everybody, my name is Forbes Riley, and I'm an American actress and a TV host. And I was delighted when I got my copy of Missing, which is Extraordinary Relation of Ordinary People based on a real life relationship. It's well written. It's amazing. It talks about a man who has lost his wife and his daughter, and it's very well done. I'm going to highly recommend that you go get your copy of Missing. It is a powerful, exciting read. Mr. Mian Moshe Zia. He is the author of Missing. And I want to give a big shout out and a kiss all the way halfway around the world to my dear friend. Check him out at Mia's website. It's called www.miamotionzea.com. Missing, available on Amazon. Again, I'm Forbes Riley, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, Anchor FM, Radio Public, and themikewagnershow.com. Please support our program with your donations at themikewagnershow.com. Join us again next time for another great episode of The Mike Wagner Show.